What up, guys? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It is Sunday afternoon, and guess what? I'm in my vehicle, but I'm not driving. I'm parked. There's a Food Line over there, and there's a McDonald's over there, and there's a Dollar Tree back there. So everything that you could need is like right here within walking distance, which is great. And we're going to talk about the big winners and the big losers from yesterday's action and this past weekend's action. If you're here for the first time, if you enjoy this video, please hit it with a thumbs up and subscribe to the Carolina Jackpot channel. We're about to hit 11,000 subscribers before long, and I certainly would appreciate a like and leave a comment down in the comment section below too if you enjoy this content. Looking back at last Thursday's action and Friday, and then we'll get into the Saturday action as well. West Virginia 33-10 over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has zero offense. I mean, this team is really bad on the offensive side of the football, and I kind of called for this in the summer when I saw the hire that they made of Brent Pry, defensive coordinator from Penn State. I know he's a Virginia Tech guy. He's got that lunch pail mentality and all that. They also have the no offense mentality, and you're not going to win many football games like that. So Virginia Tech looks bad, and I mean, it could get even worse here as they get into conference play. Coastal Carolina kind of blew out Georgia State a little bit, 41-24. Georgia State's 0-4. Illinois continues to rock and roll along, 31-0. They're 3-1. Big win at home over the Snake. Syracuse 22-20 on Friday night over Virginia. I made a video talking about Dabo Swinney's coaching tree not looking too great. Well, guess what? Still don't look great because Tony Elliott's 2-2 as head coach at Virginia. He was not able to get the job done. Syracuse, though, had to come from behind, kick a field goal, win that thing. But you knew when they trotted Andre Schmidt out there to kick the game-winning field goal that it would definitely be a game-winning field goal. That guy, he doesn't miss a lot of them. He sure doesn't. But Virginia still covers the spread. They missed 2 field goals, and, yeah, they missed 3 field goals. That guy, oof, man. So they left 9 points on the board there. Could have been different, I guess. Syracuse didn't play particularly well, though, in the second half. They should have beaten Virginia by more than what they did. Air Force rolling 48-20 over Nevada. If you don't get the chance to watch the academies play, you really should take time out to watch an academy game. That triple option offense, when it works to perfection, it's just a thing of beauty. I love that. It's kind of a lost art form in football nowadays. UTEP 27-10 win over Boise State. That's kind of a surprise. Boise was favored pretty big in that game, 16.5. So big surprise there. So getting into Saturday's games, and we're just going here in the order that they have them listed over on CBS Sports, and talk about Tennessee 38-33 over Florida. Congratulations. I mean, they got the job done. The 11th ranked Vols go to 4-0 on the season over the 20th ranked Florida Gators. Florida does cover the spread in that game, though. And if you were just to look at this stat line, though, Florida outgained Tennessee 594 yards to 575. No one would have believed that if you had told them that. If they woke up from a deep sleep and they didn't watch this game, they would not have believed you. They would also not have believed that Florida had more passing yards than they did. 453 of them to 349 yards for the Vols. 349 is still a shit ton of yards to put up, but 453 by Florida. Florida was 5 of 6 on 4th downs. They kept the ball 10 minutes longer than what Tennessee did. Now, that's not surprising because Tennessee goes on drives. They don't last long, you know what I mean? They don't sustain a drive for too long. They're down and out. Tennessee, though, 6 of 6 in the red zone. Florida, only 4 of 6 in the red zone. Florida had a couple of penalties that kind of hurt them a little bit. And then Tennessee did outrush them 228 yards to 141 yards. So, I mean, got to give them credit. Good win for the Vols there. How good is Florida? I mean, I don't know. When it came down in that cutting time yesterday, though, they couldn't get the job done, especially in the second half. So, it'll be on to the next one for both these guys. I was saying incorrectly last night that Tennessee plays LSU this week. Tennessee actually is off this coming week, which is kind of an early off week, but I think that kind of parlays for them a little bit pretty well into the Tennessee game, or the Alabama game, which that's in 2 weeks. Or no, yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. It's on October the 15th. Well, that's the third Saturday in October, and it's an early third Saturday in October this year because it's on the 15th. You got an October 1st this year. It's a Saturday. App State crumbles yesterday, and I could have predicted this coming. They were up 28-3 over James Madison, and they lose 32-28. James Madison comes from behind. They're 3-0 on the season. App State's had too many emotional victories in a row for them not to have a letdown there. So, pretty bad loss by the Mountaineers, but they should be able to rebound from that. Alabama, 55-3 over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was playing their third-string quarterback the entire game, were they? Why was that? If anybody knows, put it down in the comment section below. I didn't watch any of this game. I'm not interested in watching. I don't know why. It's always, during the Gamecocks game or during a Clemson game or something that I'm more interested in. I just really don't watch a lot of Alabama football. I'll go back and watch some of it, but they're rolling right along. Bryce Young was efficient last night, and they seem to just find these receivers from out of nowhere. I know they recruit great, but still, it's just it's crazy that 55-3 over a Vanderbilt team that had looked pretty good up until this point. They absolutely get crushed. Vanderbilt 1 of 13 on third downs. 1 of 13. They were outgained 628 yards to 129. Yeah. Vanderbilt put up 129 yards of total offense in that ball game. They were sacked 4 times. Woo! Just a crazy performance by Alabama. Boston College drops it 44-14 on the road to Florida State. Florida State's playing some pretty good football. I see that Jordan Travis was back last night, and totally dominated a Boston College team that surprisingly does not look very good to me. I thought that they would be a sneaky decent team in the ACC this year. Turns out the sneaky decent team in the ACC Atlantic is Syracuse. And I think personally, and this is just me, no doubt I probably predicted Syracuse to be in last place in the ACC Atlantic myself. I think that people just tend to pigeonhole Syracuse into that spot because it's Syracuse. And they don't really take a lot of deep dives into them. But last year, you got to look at them. They almost beat Florida State last year. Came within, one possession of beating Clemson last year. They took Wake Forest, who was ACC Atlantic champions, to overtime last year. So that's not a bad football team. But Boston College thought we'd see a little bit better performance by them, especially with the quarterback, Phil Jerkovic, coming back from injury this season. Georgia, a 39-22 win over Kent State. This still has everyone scratching their head. And I'll go back and watch that one too, the speeded up version. When I can find those, I like watching them. But Ladd McConkey, I think, had put the ball on the ground a couple of times yesterday. They did what they had to do. They got a victory, but that was very un-Georgia-like. You'll see Georgia do that every now and again when they're running through teams like this in the regular season. They'll have a game where they kind of stub their toe and don't play that great. They've done it against the Gamecocks before a couple of times, but never really against a team of this caliber. And that win last week against Samford, or the week before last against Samford, was 33-0. But they shut them down. They did not score a point. They couldn't move the ball. This team, they put 22 points on the board. So, and Kent State is not a terrible group of 5 team. If you watch any MAC football, you watch a little MACtion especially. I know y'all all like to watch MACtion, especially when we get later on in the season into November and stuff, when they have a lot of it on Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. They're not a bad team, but definitely nowhere in Georgia's stratosphere should that have happened. So that's going to raise some eyebrows. I'm sure practice will be a little bit tougher this week in Georgia. So who do they have on the schedule next week? They're going to Mizzou. They're going to Mizzou this coming Saturday on the road. So that's another game and that's another team that's really good. But we'll talk about them in a minute too. South Florida 41-3 loss to Louisville. Louisville absolutely crushed them. South Florida played their A game last week in a close loss to Florida Gators. They won't get close again. They're 1-3. Michigan 34-27 over Maryland. Maryland scored kind of a garbage touchdown there with a 2-point conversion. Still, they would have covered the spread even without the garbage time touchdown. They hung tight with Michigan there, but the running back from Michigan just way too much for Maryland yesterday, and that was the difference in the ball game. Penn State plays better in the second half and kind of pulls away from Central Michigan a little bit. They win at 33-14. Definitely not Penn State's best game. I'll tell you who else didn't play their best game yesterday. It was the Pitt Panthers, 45-24 over Rhode Island. Just head-scratching. Head-scratching. 2 overtimes yesterday. We watched this entire game. Clemson, 51-45 over Wake Forest. You got to hand it to them. They did what they needed to do to win this thing, and in the end, yeah, the better team won. I mean, Clemson should have won this game by a lot more points than this. They were ahead the entire first half in 2 or 3 minutes into the third quarter, and then Wake Forest took the lead and did not relinquish it until Clemson won the game. When they won at 51-45, then Wake gets their chance, and they can't put the ball in the end zone. But just looking at the stats here, Clemson was 16-23 on third downs, which is pretty decent. They had the ball 37 minutes to Wake's 22. 371 yards passing for the Taters yesterday, and 188 on the ground. Now, that was the difference in the ball game, really. Wake Forest only with 110 yards rushing there. Sam Hartman was kind of a poor decision there at the end of that game. Kind of threw threw the ball away there. But DJ Ukulele, 371 yards passing, 26 out of 41, 5 TD passes yesterday. And then with Wake, 20 of 29. Sam Hartman, a little more efficient than the Ukulele, 337 yards through the air, 6 touchdown passes yesterday. 6 touchdown passes yesterday. Just a game that we really hate to see anybody lose it. It was a really good game there, but Clemson gets the win. They go to 4-0 on the season and pass one of what will be one of their toughest tests. Now, they have another extremely tough test coming into Death Valley this coming Saturday, which would be the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Overtime, Mizzou loses 17-14 on the road at Auburn. There were rumors I heard that Brian Harsin would be fired if they lost this game to Mizzou. They did everything they could to give the game to Mizzou. Mizzou did not want to take the win, so Auburn was down to their 4th string quarterback. I mean, there was no scoring in this game. Just an ugly game to watch. But I had it on because I was hoping that Mizzou would pull this thing out. Not because I really have anything against Auburn. I kind of like Mizzou just as a low-key team besides the Gamecocks. And they have kind of a tough time, kind of like the Gamecocks do. But they outgained Auburn yesterday, 282 to 217. Auburn only had 217 yards of total offense yesterday. 82 yards rushing. I mean, you got Stank Bigsby on your team, and you can't do any more than that. Absolutely horrible. Mizzou, if you didn't see it, they got the ball down near the goal line, near the end of regulation, at the almost, within was only the last 30 seconds of the game, I think. They're on the 5-yard line. They got down there. Their field goal kicker, Harrison Mevis, this guy is automatic. right? He is automatic. So instead of trying to punch the ball in from there, I mean, you know, you're not turning the ball over, which is, I guess, what their fear was. I don't know. But instead of just trying to punch the ball in from there, which you could have done, I mean, you had Auburn on their heels. Eli Drinkowitz kneels on it. It was either 2 or 3 straight times. Quarterback kneels on the ball to get it in position for a field goal. Harrison Mevis dead center, and he pushes it wide right. I mean, you can't make this up. And then Auburn scores in overtime with a field goal at 17-14. Mizzou again gets the ball back. And this kid, last name Pete, the running back, he breaks one down the left sideline, and he's going in. He's going in to score, or he's going to be very, very close to the goal line. And he's got the first down, too, because I think this play started, I think we're around the 20-yard line. He extends the ball out to reach over the pylon, which he did not need to do. He had a first down. All he had to do was get out of bounds. Instead, reaches the ball across the pylon. As he's reaching it across, it gets knocked out of his hands. Auburn recovers in the end zone. Of course, it has to be reviewed for 5 minutes. The play call on the field stands. Auburn wins. Just an absolutely heartbreaking, heart-wrenching way to lose a game that nobody wanted to win. And Brian Harsin is definitely not out of the woods, in my opinion. And Eli Drinkowitz may have placed himself firmly on the hot seat, too, after this one. That was a bad one. I can't wait to listen to my friends that do the Mazodcast, the Missouri podcast. If you've never listened to that before, go check it out on your Apple podcast feed. Just type in Mazodcast, Mizzodcast, and give that a listen. It's absolutely hilarious. Baylor goes on the road, 31-24 win over Iowa State. I thought the wrong team was favored there, and it turns out they were. Baylor gets a nice conference win. Kansas goes to 4-0. They win 35-27 over Duke. They had them down by 2 touchdowns for the majority of this game. Duke scores, and was just not able to get anything else going really offensively against Kansas. And the Jayhawks go to 4-0 for the first time in years. Mississippi State, no problems with Bowling Green, 45-14. TCU, pretty good game there. They win 42-34 on the road at SMU. Buffalo blows out Eastern Michigan 50-31. That's kind of a surprising final score there. They cover the spread as an underdog, and them putting 50 points on the scoreboard is kind of nuts. Temple, they've been down too. Speaking of Kansas, Lance Leopold, the coach at Kansas, was the coach at Buffalo for a number of years. As you guys know, he rebuilt that program, and they have not looked good really since he left. But they get a nice win yesterday on the road. Temple, 28-0 shutout win over UMass. UCLA goes on the road, beats Colorado 45-17. Colorado is really bad. They're 0-4 right now, and there's like a live, it's some kind of live prop bet that you can do right now, a live in the season prop bet that I heard about. Their over-under win total right now for Colorado, if you want to lay some money on it, is 0.5. It's 0.5. So, I mean, what do you do with them? I mean, they're 0-4 right now, and they've played, to their credit, Colorado, they don't have any cupcakes on the schedule because you played 9 games as a Pac-12 team. They're out of conference. Who schedules this? They're out of conference with TCU at home, at Air Force, and at Minnesota. And they got blown out in all those games. Now they've lost their first conference game to UCLA. You know, they're at Arizona. They got Cal, Oregon State, Arizona State, Oregon, USC, Washington, Utah. They're probably not winning any of those games. The best chance would be in the next 2 weeks against Arizona or Cal. Indiana, 45-24, 21-point win over, or 21-point win by Cincinnati over Indiana. No surprise there. Indiana was kind of a fraudulent 3-0 team. Middle Tennessee, 45-31 win over Miami. This is just absolutely shocking to me. But it shouldn't be shocking, because this year, somebody from the Power Five has pooped the bed every week against a group of five, against a group of five team that you should not be losing to. Like, Indiana's a Power Five, but them losing to Cincinnati that's not pooping the bed. I mean, that's expected. I mean, Houston, somebody in Power 5 losing to Houston wouldn't be pooping the bed. That would be expected. Losing to Middle Tennessee State that's pooping the bed. They were 2-1, and they had gotten blown out, and they were only lost by James Madison, a brand new FBS team. Just absolutely insane here. A 69-yard touchdown by Middle Tennessee, a 98-yard touchdown pass. Yeah, Miami is, you got some explaining to do there. 34-7, Minnesota dominates Michigan State on the road. That's a good football team. That is a good football team, and that is probably the team that will end up playing, to me, what will probably end up being the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game in the Big Ten Championship. That'll be interesting. I mean, it really will. And, I don't see anybody knocking off Ohio State or Michigan. I think both of those teams will go into that game undefeated. From what I saw of Penn State last week, I thought that they might be able to do it, and they still may. Yesterday may have been one of those wet fart one-off games that everybody plays down a little bit after a big win. We saw it with Georgia, and nobody's counting Georgia out of the SEC race, right? So should we count Penn State out after a 19-point win over a not impressive Central Michigan team? I don't think we should, because we would never count Georgia out. Notre Dame, 45-32 win over North Carolina. Everybody in my contest took North Carolina. Should have been a little bit smarter than that. I should have known that Notre Dame had some offensive woes that they needed to correct, and North Carolina was definitely the team to do that against. Marcus Freeman, he gets his second win in a row. A big road win there against the Tar Heels. Overtime, 37-34. Texas Tech knocks off Texas. Another team that very disappointing to me. San Diego State, 17-14 over Toledo. Memphis, 44. Nobody cares. Here's a few games nobody really cares about. Western Kentucky, 73-0 over FIU yesterday. These are conference rivals, right? I believe they're both Conference USA teams. I don't know, so many teams have gone from Sun Belt to Conference USA and back and forth, but the spread was 31, so they more than doubled a huge spread. FIU, Georgia Tech loses 27-10 to UCF. Really not a bad loss for Georgia Tech, but I'm hearing Jeff Collins is getting fired today anyway. And I had thought about this one, about maybe sprinkling a little bit on the money line, because I just said, Georgia Tech's got to win a game somewhere against somebody, and why not? But, they played better. I guess UCF really not interested in this game. Ole Miss, 35-27 win over Tulsa. I'm going to go back and see what happened with this one. It looks like Tulsa got some garbage time points. Well, actually, it looks like Ole Miss is up 35-14 in this game, and then kind of let Tulsa back into it a little bit. But I don't know. Was Ole Miss looking ahead to Kentucky? Only 154 yards yesterday through the air. That is very un-Ole Miss-like. However, 308 yards on the ground. I don't. What is his name? Zach Evans. That's Ole Miss running back. He rushed for. I only rushed for 48 yesterday. This other young man, Mr. Judkins. I don't know how to pronounce this. Quinshawn Judkins. This young man yesterday, he rushed for 140 yards. You can tell I didn't watch a minute of this ball game, and 2 touchdowns. So maybe Zach Evans is banged up. Looks like they got somebody else that can tote the rock. Can Kentucky stop that? We'll see. Ole Miss is 4-0. They may be fraudulent too. Oregon comes from behind, 44-41 win over Washington State. Washington State covers that number, but Oregon is 3-1 now. Some impressive wins there. Cal blows out Arizona. It's not very often that we see Cal blow someone out, but they did. 49-31 over the Arizona Wildcats, who thought were kind of an improving team. Didn't do too well yesterday. Houston 34-27. They just get by Rice. That's not a good win there for Houston. Houston is kind of a disappointment, to be frank. East Carolina loses. They're 2-2 on the season now. They lose to Navy 23-20 in 2 overtimes. Navy kicks a field goal and wins that game. Kentucky wins 31-23. Unimpressive win over Northern Illinois. Kentucky just barely rushed for 100 yards. I don't know. We'll see. Got Chris Rodriguez coming back this week for the game at Ole Miss. It's a noon game at Ole Miss. I'm really not sure how that plays into Ole Miss's favor or not. I know they got a big tailgating scene down there at Ole Miss, the Grove, right? But I don't think they're really known for, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really know much about the Ole Miss tailgating scene other than it's the Grove, and everybody wears their starched white and khakis and neckties and all that. But I don't think they go down there and get sloppy drunk and rowdy like LSU fans do at Death Valley and make the environment just totally unwinnable in. So a noon game could be a snoozer next week, and I'm kind of worried that a snoozer would play into Kentucky's favor. Of course, they get back Chris Rodriguez, who was suspended 4 games for drinking too much tequila on Mother's Day and driving around in his hot rod. He's back, so we'll see. Is he rusty? I don't know. Hopefully he is. Iowa on the road at Rutgers. Iowa wins 27-10. That over-under was set at 34, which is historically low. But the over cashed in that one, and Iowa gets a win. They're 3-1 now. Both teams are. Arkansas drops to Texas A&M 23-21. Arkansas was up early in this game. Texas A&M came back and took the lead in Arkansas's field goal kicker with about a minute left. He hit it off the top of the upright. I've never seen a ball bounce like that before. And he was very upset on the sidelines after it was over. And I'm not trying to be ugly. Y'all heard me last time on a live stream. Was it a he or was it a she? If it was a he was very, very effeminate. Very effeminate. But anyway, he, she, whatever. Yeah, I feel sorry for him. That was rough, and I fully expect Arkansas to win that game. Just can't do it. UNLV's 3-1. They go 34-24 over Utah State, which is 1-3. Utah State has been a really good team in the past, but not so much this year. They've lost some talent there, and they're kind of struggling. Southern Miss 27-24 over Tulane. You see this time and time again. Tulane had a big win on the road last week. That big 7-point win over K-State, which is a good win for Tulane. That's a good win over a solid Power 5 team. And they lose to Southern Miss, a team that they probably should not be losing to. They were 12-point favorites in this game. You see it all the time. It's almost automatic anymore. And you really have to study these things up. because that happens more often than not. South Alabama still playing good football, 38-14 over Louisiana Tech. Troy, 16-7 over Marshall. Now, that one kind of surprised me. Troy had an emotional loss last week. I thought they'd be kind of flat, but they come out and hold Marshall to 7 points and win. NC State, kind of a workmanlike 41-10 win over UConn. UConn drops to 1-5, but they actually cover the spread here. It looks like NC State just kind of mailed this one in. They outgained Connecticut through the air, 323 yards to 39. 39. And it says right here that UConn was 10 of 15 through the air. How do you have 1.2 yards per pass? That is insane. 121 rushing yards for UConn. NC State, this game, it was 28-3 at halftime. NC State through the air. Devin Leary, 32 of 44, 320 yards. 4 TDs, 1 interception. You can't, really get much better than that. They're efficient running the ball. But I knew the run game was going to suffer a little bit this year, but they're still undefeated. And that game at Clemson this coming up Saturday is going to be it's going to be a huge game there. Huge game. I expect Clemson to probably be favored by about a touchdown again. We'll see if they struggle with NC State like they do. I'm telling you, if their secondary plays like it did against Wake Forest, against NC State, they will lose. Because now they have been that number 20 for Clemson, last name Wiggins, in the secondary. He's terrible. I mean, he's just that guy's just not good. I mean, they picked on him. He had like 3 PI calls in one drive on himself. NC State, now that's on tape, is going to get picked on a lot. Ohio State steamrolls Wisconsin 52-31, 52-21. No surprise there that Ohio State was able to manhandle someone. Purdue, 28-26 win at home over FAU. This is another one that was going on at nighttime. I didn't watch it. Looks like FAU scored a touchdown with about 5 minutes left there for that margin. But, that's not an impressive win. But Purdue wins a lot of close, ugly games. And it looks here like they got outgained. They got outgained 420 yards to 354 yards last night. But, their quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, didn't play last night. So I didn't know that. Well, that has something to do with that one. LSU, no problem. New Mexico, 38-0. Northwestern drops it to Miami of Ohio. 17-14 winners at Northwestern. And Northwestern, I was looking at the stats here. Ryan Helinski, 24 of 42 last night through the air for 232 yards. But, only an average of 5.5 yards of completion. He didn't throw any interceptions. Normally, he throws some interceptions. But Northwestern is not a good football team at all, which makes the fact that Nebraska lost to them even worse. Oklahoma loses 41-34 to Kansas State. They take their first loss there. They've lost a lot of games to Kansas State recently. And Kansas State, here's another team you bounces back from a pretty bad loss last week and gets the victory there. New Mexico State 45-26 over Hawaii in the battle of 0-3 teams, 0 for teams. Or Hawaii's won one game. Now New Mexico State's won one game. Both these teams are terrible. UL Monroe, I gave that out as a cover over the Raging Cajuns, and they do. 21-17. The Beeve. Watch out for the Beeve. They drop it to USC at home, though, 17-14. Southern Cal escapes Corvallis with a win. Brigham Young, a 38-24 win over Wyoming at home, which was expected. They didn't cover the spread, though. Arizona State kind of disappointed me a little bit. I thought that they'd be kind of playing. Normally we see teams that the coach gets fired. A lot of times they'll come out and cover the number. No such against Utah. 34-13. Utah is now 3-1, ranked number 13 as of yesterday. I'm sure they moved up. Utah, I think, is trying to wash that stench of that week 1 loss to Florida off of them. And you know, if Utah goes out undefeated the rest of the way, wins the Pac-12 championship, is that good enough to get into the playoffs? I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's very likely that could happen. It's very likely that could happen. San Jose 34-6 over Western Michigan, and Washington continues to play good football. Another sneaky good team out there that you don't think about. They win 40-22 over Stanford. I think, you know, Washington has had some good ball clubs in the past. And I mean, it's been over 20 years ago, but they did sneak up and make the playoffs. I think, was that 2015? They made the playoffs. They played Bama. Absolutely got clown stomped, but they made the playoffs. And it looks like they are on the verge of being a contender again in the Pac-12. So good job there, the Huskies. Last game we're going to talk about, of course, South Carolina. Last night we live streamed this game. Gamecocks win 56-20 over Charlotte. That live stream, by the way, is still available if anyone wants to watch it. Of course, I can send you the link to watch that live stream. You can DM me at Hall_Kale over on Twitter, at Hall_CALE, Kale. Not kale like the vegetable, kale like Kale Yarborough, over on Twitter, and I will send you the link to watch that live stream. We had some fun last night, and we got a lot of trolls coming in and I'm telling you, you get over here on my live streams, I'm just going to whack you out if you start getting on my nerves. Now, I realize I talk a lot of smack, but when I'm watching the Gamecocks and you're just trying to get up under my skin, I'm not going to let you get up under my skin. I'm just going to get rid of you, and we'll just handle it like that. But to the people that get in there and actually want to watch these things and go back and forth with a good debate, I really appreciate you being there. Gamecocks improved to 2-2 on season. Charlotte falls to 1-4. Am I happy with this win? Yes and no. Yes and no. I'm happy with the final score. I'm happy with that outcome. I would have liked for them not to have let Charlotte score another touchdown. Won at 56-14, but I'll take this win. You win by 36 points, of course, covering the spread of 23.5. South Carolina, here's just some stats. They outgained Charlotte 545 yards to something. I'm not sure what Charlotte had. South Carolina 295 yards rushing. And I'm more excited to see that than to see Spencer Rattler throw for over 200 yards, because that rushing offense has been dormant this year. It's been absolutely dormant. I personally think Marshawn Lloyd is the best running back in the state, and he definitely looked like last night well over 100 yards. We saw him actually hurdle a kid in the first quarter on his way to a long run there. There were highlights of him hurdling people in high school when he was up there in the Wilmington, Delaware area. So, yeah, showing off that athleticism. No ill effects from that knee surgery from a couple of years ago, and he looked really good. Gamecocks 7 of 8 in the red zone. Things I don't really like. Charlotte held the ball for 10 minutes longer than South Carolina, which is, it is what it is when, South Carolina was scoring at a pretty good clip there, especially in the second half. But talking about the first half, South Carolina was only up 20-14 at halftime. Kicked 2 field goals. I'm not impressed nor happy with that. And if you watched the live stream, you knew my displeasure there in the first half. Of course, after the half, 36-6, South Carolina outscores them. Somebody got their butt chewed in the second half, or at halftime, because that was a different team when they came out of the locker room. Corey Rucker catches a touchdown pass for South Carolina's last score, a 52-yarder. Glad to see that. Josh Vann only got one target last night. I wonder if that had anything to do with what he had to say on his podcast there about Marcus Satterfield. You know, I don't know if it did or if it didn't, but if I'm Marcus Satterfield, you know, I'm not really holding anybody too much accountable for that, especially the way my play calling has been this year. Only one sack last night too, which I didn't really particularly like seeing that, and that was by Gilbert Edmond, who's the second stringer. South Carolina played a lot. It was a majority of that second half. It was second and third stringers playing defense. With a lot of guys out hurt, and they're going to get healed up, and they'll play even more of a skeleton downed crew this coming Saturday against South Carolina State, a game that South Carolina should roll in easily. South Carolina should be able to put up 70, 80 points if they want to on the FCS South Carolina State Bulldogs, not disparaging them in any way, shape, or form, but their talent level just does not match up. This was a good win for South Carolina, but I don't like these slow starts. I don't like the slow starts. They had a very slow start against Georgia State, very slow start against Arkansas. We don't even need to talk about the Georgia game. And then we saw a very slow start again last night, and this has got to stop. We can't rely on halftime to make the adjustments that we need to make and then come out in the second half and win these ball games against quality SEC competition. It's not going to happen. If you play like this in SEC play, you'll win 2 games in the SEC at best. At best. You know, a lot of idiots in the comment section last night tell me South Carolina's going to lose to Vanderbilt this year. And I mean, just a lot of nonsense that is based on really nothing. But had you came out in the first half and played like you did in the second half, I think that I'd be a lot more happy with the win from last night and a lot more elated than I am today. As it were, I'm happy with the win, but I'm not head over heels in love with this team right now. I'm just not. I'm still not sold on them. We'll see how they look in a couple of weeks at Kentucky. That's going to be the turning point of the season. If they go up there and they get an upset win on the road, and yes, I have to say it would be an upset win on the road, beating Kentucky. I mean, they've got Kentucky. They were ranked number 8. I don't know where they're at right now. If that's the number 8 team in the country, that's the 8th best team we have, we're in trouble with college football. We're just in trouble. I mean, Kentucky is just. I'm sorry. And I'm not really disparaging them, but once again, I mean, I don't like Kentucky. Obviously, you can tell that I don't like Kentucky. I don't like Tennessee. But I can't really disparage what they've done. But Kentucky is an ugly, ugly football team. They are ugly. They win very ugly games. Tennessee doesn't win. Well, Tennessee kind of won an ugly game yesterday. But Tennessee's more of a finesse team. They run up and down the field. The frisbee catching dogs, jumping out of the air from all directions, and Kentucky's not like that. But they're not the number 8 team in the country. I'm sorry, the number 8 team in the country does not struggle with Northern Illinois. So that's about all I got to say about that one, guys. And oh yeah, and going to that Kentucky game, they're either going to win against Ole Miss or they're going to lose to them. Either way, that could have an effect on South Carolina's game. If they lose to Ole Miss, I almost would rather them go down there and win against Ole Miss. And in fact, I may be pulling for Kentucky this weekend to go down there and win against Ole Miss because I think that may give them a little bit of a false sense of confidence going into the game in Lexington against the Gamecocks. If they go down there and lose, I don't see much of a chance for South Carolina having success. And I can see in the comment section that we're going to have success either way. Carolina jackpot. We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. I think next week's going to tell us a lot about how this team's going to be prepared. But anyway, I've gone on long enough here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit it with a thumbs up. and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. We'll do a live show tonight at 9 p.m., the Rob and Kel Show, where we recap the weekend as well and talk about the games that we're going to pick for next week. I will see you guys later. Peace, and I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks. Spurs up to my toes up, baby. Go Coach Beamer. Woo!